2 suitcases, life in the backpack, new destination, full tank and a roadmap. Laughing on 90, me and you headed east, past Buffalo, riding on these eerie streets. Twilight peaks through the setting sun. Hours fly by, I feel like this journey's just begun. I got my shotgun, my DJ, my best friend by my side. Windows roll down as I put the car in drive.
I don't know where we'll go, just know that we've got miles. We've got miles and miles to go. We've got miles, we've got miles and miles to go.
Riding the country sweet road, I don't care where we go. Put my foot up on the metal like I'm standing on gold. Championship goals, like we're headed to the races. Cruising the sunset, leaving memories on the pavement. If the road ahead gets rocky, might slow down, but we're really not stopping. We may detour, but I got you as my guide. We've got miles to go on this lifelong ride.
And I don't know where we'll go, just know that we've got miles. We've got miles and miles to go. We've got miles, we've got miles to go.
From rolling to open roads to the hours, you and me, Ralph and Roses, Ralph and Roses. Growing wiser as reality when we're still chasing dreams. Ralph and Roses, Ralph and Roses.
The road keeps traveling on and changing the way to go. If we lose control, then as long as I've got you, then I don't mind. We've got miles and miles to go.
Yeah. Turn it up.
We've got miles, we've got miles to go. We've got so much time,
It's all good.
we got so much time. We've got miles,
Really matter where or do I care?
and miles to go.
80 million miles to forever. So much better if we never, ever stop.
We've got miles and miles and miles to go.
Let me know if you're down for the ride.
Stretches on and on and
I've been waiting
on
for
and
this
on and on. Yeah.
Ralph and Roses, Ralph and Roses, Ralph and Roses, Ralph and Roses.
That was Astronomer, a new music project from Adam Reisnider and Joel Big Green with their song Miles to Go. You might have recognized that as the featured song for the trailer to the 44th annual Cleveland International Film Festival, which concluded last month. Welcome to Live from Cleveland, broadcasting on WRUW-FM 91.1. I'm Rachel H., your host for this hour. I want to remind our listeners that this show has been pre-recorded and has been edited for play today, May 14th, 2020. WRUW will remain automated until further notice from Case Western Reserve University and the state of Ohio. In the meantime, if you're itching to connect with us, please do so on our Facebook page, facebook.com/livefromclevelandradio, or you can send us an email to fortheloveofbooking@yahoo.com. This week on Live from Cleveland, we talked to local music educators who have had difficulties adapting to virtual classrooms and technology shortcomings during quarantine. However, in all of these stories, there's also been a silver lining, a connective thread that we are all struggling with the same challenges right now. Hopefully, we can learn from one another in order to best serve our communities and produce the best content that we can. That's something that was heavily on my mind this week as I thought about producing a new episode of Live from Cleveland. I've seen some great live streams from people's homes, and this week we were planning to have Damn the Witch Siren from Columbus on to promote their new album, White Magic, but I wanted to wait until we could get a better idea of how to achieve the best audio quality for their live performance, so we'll be hearing from them in 2 weeks. But with that on my brain, how we could learn from Damn the Witch Siren's past live stream, which looked awesome online, how to connect with them person to create the best show possible. I was thinking, how are other people learning from each other right now in the music industry? We've been listening to independent and college radio stations across the country on TuneIn at my house during my stay at home, and everyone is kind of struggling with similar audio quality issues, best microphone practices, things like that. And I'm sure you've noticed it as well if you've tried to watch the news or watch SNL and as people kind of record from their own homes. It got me thinking, how are our educators, our teachers, who are supposed to be the ones, that know how to do things, teaching our youth and dealing with the change in technology? Are they struggling with the same issues? And that's when I saw this piece that you're about to hear posted on Cleveland Metropolitan School District's Facebook page. In this production by Durrell Snipes, a multimedia journalist for the CMSD News Bureau, she discusses this exact topic with Campus International K-8 music teacher Jason Levy.
For most of us, this is how we're getting our work done these days. We're sitting in front of a computer participating in a virtual meeting or classroom. But how about if you had to try and teach 150 students a musical instrument on the computer? Well, that is what Campus International K-8 music teacher Jason Levy is trying to do. He is getting creative so that all his students can be on the same beat. But he says there was a lot of trial and error, and his first class didn't go so well.
All of the band, I'm going to get my 8th graders together. We know this music. We just had a concert before the quarantine happened. We're all going to play together. And it was a hot mess. Sound coming from everywhere. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew where anything was. So finding that mute all button was a godsend.
Since that first Zoom class, Jason Levy decided to break up his classes into small, more manageable groups.
While seeing 150 students in small groups of 2s, 3s, and 5s and 6s takes a lot of time. I knew it was going to be what was best for the students. Here we go.
But that isn't Mr. Levy's only challenge, teaching music over the internet.
Is sound and internet speeds. Their sound is coming out of their computer at a slightly different speed than everybody else's, giving my instructions slightly delayed as well. So all of us playing as an ensemble been the biggest challenge. We are so used to being able to use our ears and immediately adjust and make on the spot, on the fly adjustments.
Mr. Levy is able to share his screen and show sheets of music to his students.
Everybody can be on the same page at the same time, and literally the same page of music at time, which they might not have access to otherwise. Once you put in your class code,
as well as help students become more familiar with the technology, which will benefit them for other classes.
So the fact that I'll, in that way, helps them with their other classes. I know some of our other teachers at Campus International are also using Google Classroom. So if I can help them join to my band class, then they'll be able to join Mr. Heron's social studies class or Miss Perry's English class and some of these other classes as well.
Well, great. Well, let's get the kids in on this conversation. So David, how hard or easy is it to practice your trombone while looking at a screen?
If I know the notes, then it would be easy. Like new to the song, and it's kind of like hard for me to like remember all the notes.
Well, Ava, you play the clarinet, correct?
Yeah.
And so how do you like going into these Zoom classrooms and practicing your clarinet?
I like it, but I'd rather be in school because it's easier to learn new songs with everybody in the classroom.
But even though right now we can't be in the classroom, how is it that you can continue to practice and learn stuff while at home.
I think it's really cool to be able to experience that aspect of learning.
While virtual classes don't replace going to school, they are all making the best out of staying home.
It's made me closer to them in a lot of ways. I get to peek into their house, into their lives. They get to meet my family. That's when they jump into the screen, or when my wife stops by to make some coffee.
That was Dariel Snipes reporting for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District News Bureau from Campus International. You can watch the corresponding footage on their Facebook page, facebook.com/CleveMetroSD. Another teacher who has been using Zoom to showcase his students' talent is Dr. David M. Thomas, vocal music director for the All City Arts program. You can watch their video on their Facebook as well, recorded for educators to conclude Teacher Appreciation Week. Here's their rendition of Joe Crocker's You Are So Beautiful, sung by Damon Johnson, Cheyenne Dunn, Lucas Santiago Mercado, Isley Sims, Gabrielle Wheeler, and Ololade Robinson.
You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? Everything I hope for, you're everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. Such joy and happiness. Such joy and everything I hope for, you're everything I need. You are so beautiful to me.
Adapted music lesson educator David Diekey has also faced his fair share of challenges communicating with students virtually. He teaches pre-K through 12th grade at STEPS charter schools, which focus on students with autism.
I teach like a music class like we would have had like throughout high school or elementary school, but it's adapted to really catch the students' interest. So I follow the OMEA and the NAFME, follow the guidelines like that and adapt it to fit our curriculum and fit our students. So instead of like learning how quarter notes work just through like a book or a standard melody that doesn't really appeal to them, we will learn quarter notes like through a theme from Mario or something. Like I really go out of my way to make what we're learning, these musical skills, interesting and applicable for them. There was a break, like a week break, where everyone was trying to figure out what to do and what was going to happen. And then as soon as we picked up, it was almost like the Wild West of figuring out how to do what we've been doing. So the school broke into teams, and I was part of the arts team. So at our school, we have a culinary arts, fine arts, music, martial arts, which is cool. So the groups broke up, and like we each learned how to, or each came up with a way of how we can teach our curriculum online, which was kind of hard, like, because with my class I bring a whole class set of instruments, like it's ukulele day, it's drum day, and not all our students have those, because they're provided through the school. And so it was almost like we had to figure out what we could do with what we had. And it was almost like thinking backwards in a sense. So instead of what can they do, what can they have you do type deal, if that makes sense. So instead of like learning to play a song, learning how a song works and writing one together, we've been learning about different cultures and musics from around the world, and like seeing how that applies to what we've learned so far. And like a big part of like trying to figure out how that would even how to make that work was kind of just seeing how other musicians have handled just being shut down from gigs. So seeing like people like Ben Gage and Michelle Gall and all these people stream and do streaming like concerts and stuff, and trying to figure out how that works. Like I stumbled upon OBS and how you can record your desktop, and like that made it a way to have an interactive lesson as opposed to just sending homework or busy work. It was a way that I can like I can record a lesson and I can let them come to that lesson whenever they want. The live thing's kind of tricky because if parents are trying to figure out the new schedule and when they can make it work and how it works, and then they miss the class. So like recording it and having a way to be interactive was a big deal, especially for the kids I work with. Just seeing what other people are doing and trying to figure it out has opened up doors I didn't think would be able to be opened up.
Dave, what has been the biggest challenge for you through all of this, especially being able to communicate with your students virtually?
I guess just trying to make it interactive for me took a real long time to figure out. I guess I shouldn't say a real long time, like a week, but like still like in the the whole week I was like, how am I going to make this work? For me, the hardest thing was trying to engage the students and trying to create a course content that is interactive, apply, and easily accessible for everyone involved, and to continue from where we left off, where it was very hands-on. Now it's trying to create that interaction without it being as hands-on too. It took a shift from like learning how to play to learning how it's applied, which is it was hand in hand with like what we're playing and how it worked, and then seeing how that focused on the different intervals, like the fourth, and like I remember the Mario coin sound, right? Like that bling, that's a fourth. It's just really high up on the piano, and like for them that was a lot of fun, and we would queue up a video. We would watch someone who's done that playing it. It became watching it and seeing it in action. So we've been learning about like music from Cuba and music from Jamaica and Japan, and seeing how like what we've learned applies to that.
And I know as an instructor, there's also additional things that you have to take into consideration, specifically teaching students with autism. And there's a lot of parents out there that have also, I think, been wondering what some of the specific challenges are that you're facing with that population.
I think it's the interaction, because sometimes with our course or with our school, it's more of the personal connection with the teachers than it is the content of the course. We use a lot of SEL, social emotional learning, and like that's implied a lot into our lessons and routine, and that routine being thrown off, and I think just the lack of interaction between. So that's why trying to develop something that is interactive is important, but still that's not the same as like being there with the student or with the teacher. It really is a divide. And so I would say with our students in particular, that is definitely one of the biggest challenges is that interaction and that change of schedule.
Have you noticed any unexpected positives to come out of the situation that we're in?
Oh, I look through everything with like rose tinted glasses. Everything is like, despite all this, like especially with Teacher Appreciation Week, we got this really sweet video of everyone saying they missed us, and like vice versa. And there was like just the to hear like on both sides from students and from teachers that everyone misses each other. And it's almost like brought out certain students that maybe wouldn't have, that maybe this format is even working better for. Maybe this is something they can, like with our students, maybe it's less noisy because there isn't other students like intentionally hitting the drums to drive everyone else crazy because they didn't get the drum they wanted. So there's almost little pockets where they're getting more out of like this one-on-one virtual platform than maybe in a group effort. And those are different skills, and those are skills that both have to be addressed. But so there's just little things and little interactions with students that maybe wouldn't have happened. So I see a lot of good from it, and I see a lot of like potential when everything gets back to the new normal. I see the potential of a lot of this being integrated into the coursework that we normally do. And almost like just like with people who are streaming all their concerts, like it'd be hard to like not see people start streaming them playing in live venues, because I'm sure they're reaching new people. So I feel like out of all this, there's a grown appreciation for teachers and students and the interactions that we've had and don't have at the moment, and that going through this, we've learned new ways to approach old things. So like just even thinking of how to teach a class digitally and how to like use the technology we have, just like how you're doing what you're doing with the board you got and the computer you got. Like everyone in any facet of being in public and navigating some type of lesson, lecture, anything is now redefining how they do it and how it's perceived. So I think it's going to be innovative and creative, and there's going to be a lot of cool new things.
That was David Diekey joining me from Facebook Voice. You may recognize him as the vocalist and guitarist for the band Sea Level. He also sits on the board of Negative Space Art Gallery and recently helped raise over $5,000 to help the community space pay rent with the help of several other musicians who live stream their way to reaching their GoFundMe goal. You can hear his band's music at c-level44.com. Next up, we talked to Dr. Sean Murphy, who was hired on at Baldwin Wallace University 2 years ago to help develop their arts management and entrepreneurship program into a standalone degree focusing on the music industry. They were recently named one of the top music business schools by Billboard magazine. However, finishing out this academic year has been tough on everyone, especially graduating seniors, and the road to next semester is also uncertain. We talked to him when we return, but first, students from Baldwin Wallace's Conservatory of Music's Music Career Development class play Dream On, written by Aerosmith and arranged by Scott Bradley, assembled from Zoom videos.
Every time I look in the mirror, all these lines on my face getting clearer. The past is gone, deep inside, like dust to dawn. Isn't that the way everybody's Yeah, I know nobody knows where it comes and where it goes. I know it's everybody's sin. You gotta lose to know how to win.
we've been doing kind of this music business studies at VW for a long time, dating back like 30 years. We used to have a degree program that would combine like sports management and music and arts management into one thing. But in 2015, we changed that and we started a standalone arts management degree, and that serves students who are interested in working in music, theater, dance, visual art in an administrative way. And largely this Billboard shout out and award is due in part to like kind of the good work we've been doing with the arts management program. We had grown that program from 2015 up to about 80 students now that are actively enrolled as arts management majors. And there had been kind of a calling out for more instruction in the music industry area specifically, which is like a little bit different than your typical nonprofit arts organization. So that's when I came to BW 2 years ago, and part of my charge with this new position was to develop a standalone degree in music industry that would work in tandem with arts management, so serve a larger group of students. So we've been doing that, and we just launched a standalone degree this term, but the Billboard application was really just about student experiences, alumni success, and like new programs that you could highlight as part of your overall application. So getting this award, I think it's just kind of a combination of the work we've been doing in those areas, and also really all the opportunities in Cleveland for our students to work with and engage with that helps kind of like lift up the whole program.
Just earlier this year, your students worked on a variety of really amazing projects right here in Cleveland. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the different components that have gone into this degree?
Yeah, so we just got the Beachland project in time. So March was their 20th anniversary. And as part of the program, students, once they get to our senior capstone project, we do a partner project with a real life arts organization. So some of our theater-focused students were working with Playhouse Square on their production of Freedom Summer, which ultimately wasn't able to go to stage because of the pandemic. But we were working with Beachland and Cindy Barber, the owner, highlighting the 20th anniversary campaign, and students got to do two great real-world projects. Half of them who were more interested in visual art, Cindy let them go through the archives and curate some of the more interesting posters of concerts that had occurred over the past 20 years. And they put on a display at Beachland East, just the building next door. And that was pretty cool because you had like Decemberist posters, you had like Black Keys posters, White Stripes, like Vampire Weekend, all these kind of influential artists that have come through the Beachland. And then the other side of that was students got to work with the marketing team for Beachland, coming up with this print ad that ran and seen, and how the 20th anniversary like logo and general marketing campaign could be shared out with people. And we culminated that with the Black Lips concert, which was early March, and then about a week out, after that we were on to remote learning. So we just snuck that project in time.
Baldwin Wallace has also had a really great relationship with past alumni, as well as industry professionals working within the area and local festivals like Bright Winter. Can you talk a little bit more about some of those opportunities that students within the degree have gotten to pursue either this past year or in years previous, or even coming up?
Sure. So the Bright Winter thing is really great. It's a music festival here in Cleveland in February. It's free, and we have a good relationship with Emily Hornick, who's now the executive director of the festival. And she had in the past come into our arts management and music business classes and talked about kind of just her story, getting involved in the music industry and her role in starting that festival. But we wanted to expand that just because the music festival component of the music industry is so big right now. So we decided that we would ask Emily to come back in this past fall to teach a class called Music Festival Producing. And as part of that class, the students would all have assigned duties on the day of Bright Winter back in February 2020. So I think that was a great learning opportunity for the students. This kind of learning is very hands-on. It's not as much test-based as it is actually getting practice in the field, doing the type of things that employers are going to want to experience you having done before. So I think the Bright Winter example is a really testament to what we're trying to achieve with the students in the program. Adding Mike to the team is probably our latest piece of news. So that's again part of this whole special topics initiative that we're trying to add to the curriculum, where we'll bring in guest faculty just to teach a class in their area of specialization. So for next year, we announced we're going to bring back the music festival class, and then we're going to add Mike on for this trends and practices course. So Mike is really great. He's kind of at the point in his career where he wants to give back a bit more and kind of work with the next generation of students who ultimately be working with him, hopefully, in the industry in some capacity. So I think Mike's going to bring a lot to the student experience. He has a ton of experience, ton of knowledge, starting AP and everything. But also, I think in the current kind of pandemic situation, he's had to adjust his own business as well. So he brings a lot of insight there about what's actually working and what's not, especially in the short term here, which is when he'll be teaching in the fall. It's good in that we have a really, really robust network of people we can reach out to. We have the Rock Hall here, and we have a lot of BW alums who work there. We have so many different venues in town, whether they're like the larger venues or the smaller venues like ROG and Beachland, that create like another resource for the students. And we also have a ton of other, arts entities that aren't your traditional like music club or rock hall situation, right? We have Playhouse Square, we have the Cleveland Orchestra, we have the Cleveland Museum of Art. We have all these amazing cultural institutions that all have these really sophisticated and accomplished people who work for them that all kind of work together to support this program. And like I said before, I think it's really just a testament to like, although Cleveland isn't like, New York, LA, or Nashville, it does have a really, really strong group of people who have done a lot in the past to help kind of grow our city's footprint in the arts and who we can work with to continue to achieve that.
In addition to adding Mike Shea from Alternative Press as a visiting professor for next semester, can you foresee the university adding any other offerings that will directly address how the pandemic has affected the music industry? And I also have a follow-up question to that. Do you believe that, unfortunately, because of all of this change that we're seeing within the industry itself, that it will affect your course enrollment or degrees handed out next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an uncertain time for everyone, and it seems to change, by the day or even sometimes by the hour. So as far as how is this going to affect our students, the one thing that I'm hoping that we see from this whole process is, the music industry has always been very malleable and responsive in some way, right? And very enterprising in that way, even, dating back to when we first had recorded sound, and then all of a sudden we had to migrate our industry from just live performances to like Tin Pan Alley and all these recordings that were being created. So I'm interested to see like how the larger industry is able to react to this as we get more information. As far as the academic side of things, I'm really just hoping that people can think of this music industry program as an incubation period for them to kind of sink their teeth into some of the more foundational concepts that are not going to be changed by the pandemic, and at the same time get these experiences in our special topics classes of some professionals who are dealing in the now with the challenges that this presents, and end up with kind of a very robust experience that prepares them both with fundamental information and also like practical experience on how to respond to right now. So that's my hope for our students when we return in the fall.
And tell me just a little bit about the end of the semester at Baldwin Wallace. Did you feel like all of your classes were still able to kind of make good on the goals that they set out to cover at the beginning of the semester? What were some ways that you overcame the challenges of having to be doing all of these classes remotely?
The virtual meetings have been good. I mean, we've been able to preserve some of our scheduled speakers through Zoom. It was also a good way for us to reach out to people outside of just the Cleveland area, right? Because the market for music industry is a lot larger than Cleveland, of course. So I was able to reach out to my friend Alex Shapiro. She's a composer, but she's also on the ASCAP board, and she lives out on this island in Washington, like no one can get to by car, really. So it was, and at that point we all had kind of familiarized ourselves with the remote methods. So it seemed like an obvious and easy way to kind of round out the copyright classes education by getting someone involved with ASCAP into the class. And going forward, I think hopefully this will take down a lot of barriers we have just in our mind about like the perceived difficulties about doing a remote session with a guest, and hopefully expand the type of people that we could interact with in a class, whether we're still on Zoom or we're back in the classroom kind of going forward outside of just Cleveland.
And on that note, do you think that this also kind of opens up the spectrum of students that this degree is really kind of geared towards? I know Baldwin Wallace is kind of similar to Case Western, where there are a lot of traditional college students, those that are like from the ages of 18 to 22. Who do you really see this degree at Baldwin Wallace being for?
We have had some community members take classes and also get an arts management degree since I've been there in the 2 years. I think there's a lot of potential for this degree for the type of person who either starts off as a performer and then maybe at some point in their later in life they kind of want to put that piece aside and focus on something different, or people who really have that love of music but they don't want to kind of pigeonhole themselves into that performance degree or music ed degree, which have been like the typical options in the field. And we have been getting a fair amount of communication from transfer students who have done a 2 year somewhere else and they're looking to specialize now. So I think it could be a good option for transfers from the larger kind of Ohio area or across the country, hopefully, as well. Anyone who's interested in the degree or the school, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. You can Google me, or my email is just smurphy@bw.edu. So happy to talk to anybody.
That was Dr. Sean Murphy discussing BW's music business and entrepreneurship degree, which recently was recognized by Billboard as one of the top music business schools in the country, on how they plan to continue to live up to the hype and keep their enrollment strong during industry uncertainty. For more information about the program, you can head to bw.edu. Finally, I'm talking to another Cleveland musician who has started teaching one-on-one virtual lessons in a dramatic restructuring of her teaching and therapy style after employment sources were no longer viable. Here is Elizabeth Harris.
Actually, quarantine is kind of what pushed me to do freelance lessons because I was working as a music therapist. I still am at the music settlement, but a lot of my hours got cut as a result of all the schools closing because I work at schools in Euclid. So I work K through 12 in Euclid City Schools. And I also work part-time at Cleveland Clinic Marymount in inpatient psych. So I was still working in inpatient psych through like the second week of April until the hospital became a COVID hospital. And so I was like, I don't really feel safe continuing to do my sessions here for the little amount that I was being paid to do them, and also without a lot of like PPE, like protection. So that's kind of what pushed me to start offering lessons, which was actually a really cool endeavor because teaching virtually allows a lot more people to be my students. So I'm not limited to just people in Cleveland. But I am still doing 3 remote sessions with my clients at the music settlement. So I work with 3 individuals who are young adults with autism spectrum disorder. And so I'm continuing to do those remote sessions, but I've found that those are very difficult to do virtually. Mostly because our relationship was built in person, and now it's taken on this, virtual session. And so it's also hard because a lot of these clients that I have need music therapy because they need social interaction, right? And it's hard to have that connection over, Zoom.
You've really had to radically change how you're teaching. Did you feel like there was a steep learning curve to the technology or other aspects of one-on-one lessons? And how do you feel that the training that you had as a music therapist has influenced your teaching style?
Yeah, there definitely is a learning curve for sure. I still don't fully know how to use Zoom. There's so many settings that you can put on it that will enhance the quality of the session that you're having. So I'm still working out a lot of kinks with that. So there's a lot of learning curve there because a lot of my training musically and through music therapy is based in being in person with people, you know, building rapport with people, being able to encourage people in person, and also, you know, be able to point to and gesture, especially when I have like students who um, have impairments, like hearing impairments or visual impairments. And so being present is extremely important to the work that I do. And so that was a learning curve for me because now I have to figure out a different way to communicate with people, right? So I have to figure out, you know, more language. Like there's like almost a language barrier now because I can't point to a key on the piano and be like, "No, we need this one," right? I have to be able to be like, "Okay, we need to go 8 notes up from middle C," right? But also music lessons, there's a lot of accountability. People take music lessons because they want to make sure that their technique is correct, that they're playing the right notes, that they're, you know, basically holding themselves accountable to playing in the right fashion. And so I have to, you know, rely on other language in order to, you know, explain what I mean instead of just because I can show them on my instrument over Zoom, right? I can show them on my piano or on my guitar, but it's not the same as seeing it in person. So that's definitely been a challenge for me. Yeah, I think that all of my music therapy skills and practices have really lent me to be a better music teacher because music therapy is a very like oh it's a broad field, and so there's so many um like different populations that I can work with. Again, like I work with children and I work in inpatient psych, so it's kind of like all over the map. But we're taught as music therapists to be incredibly flexible and able to, you know, work with whatever we're given because a lot of times, you know, our clients have a difficult time adjusting to new environments. And so we have to be the basically the static, right? We have to be the thing that doesn't change for them. And I found that a lot of the ways that I use verbal processing in inpatient psych, you know, being extremely comforting and helpful and encouraging lends to my music instruction because people feel more open and able to talk to me about like things that they're struggling with when they're learning. And so I think being a music therapist has allowed me to be able to teach so many people of different learning styles and be able to adapt to the things that they need from me when they're seeking out a lesson.
Have the types of people that you're working with changed much since quarantine began?
The internet is a really wild thing. I like put out a flyer and you know, I explained to people on social media, I was like, hey, like I had to refuse to go to work because they're not like providing me with the protection that I need and I'm not getting any hazard pay and I just don't feel safe going. And like the social media community really had my back. A lot of people shared a post that I was making and or told their friends, and some people just found me on Instagram. Like I'm teaching someone voice and they live in California and I've never met them before. Most of the people that I'm teaching are around my age, actually. And it's people that, you know, work a 9 to 5 job and are working remotely. And then they're like, I need also something else to do that will, you know, quell all this time spent on the computer. Literally, almost every person that has contacted me has said, I've always wanted to do this, but I've never had the time. So I feel like the whole quarantine is giving people the opportunity to, develop other interests and get into music in ways that they hadn't before, which I think is super cool. And I'm very, very excited and also blessed to be able to provide that for them.
And finally, I guess I want to know if you personally see any kind of hidden silver linings in our situation right now.
Well, I think one of the main silver linings is that I'm able to be connected to so many people in a way that I've never been before. And I think that this is opening a lot of possibilities for what, music therapy practices and music instruction looks like on the internet now. Like, I think that we've always had this capability, but now we're able to use it in a way because we're reliant on it, right? So before we wouldn't have thought, oh, I'll give someone a virtual music lesson. Now it's a necessity, but I think that it'll become more widely used, and I think that that will be able to connect people.
Elizabeth, if people are looking to connect with you, where can they do so? Are you still taking students?
Yeah, I'm still taking students. You can contact me at elizabethharrismusic@gmail.com or on any social media at Fig New Tunes. That's FIGNEWTUNES.
I want to thank everybody who made this episode of Live from Cleveland possible. Dariel Snipes, as well as the CMSD News Bureau, that's the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Jason Levy, Campus International. Dr. David M. Thomas of the All City Arts Program. David Deakey, Sean Murphy, and Elizabeth Harris. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Live from Cleveland. Follow us on Facebook for more videos and information regarding music education in our city, as well as many other topics. Next week on Live from Cleveland, we have a roundtable discussion with venue owners Sean Watterson of the Happy Dog, Kathy Blackman of Grog Shop, as well as the director of the Bop Stop, Gabe Pollock. We'll be addressing the challenges that independent venue owners and operators face moving forward, including not only the financial but political burdens of getting their concerns heard. You can watch that live discussion on Tuesday, May 19th via Facebook Live or on our YouTube page at WRUW-FM. You can hear it broadcast on the radio in 1 week, May 21st at 10 p.m. on Live from Cleveland. I'm Rachel H. Thanks for tuning in to WRUW-FM. Here's a new arrangement of Elizabeth Harris, aka Fig's, song Pomegranate that you can find on her album called Oral Fixation.
I keep plucking the seeds of these pomegranates that you gave to me. I scoop them out. I put them all swirling inside of my mouth. Sometimes I hold them in, afraid that I'll choke. But it's hard to taste seeds when they fall right down your throat. My mother always told me, don't eat the seeds. But I was hoping something would grow inside of me. My mother always told me the seeds would take root. But are pomegranate seeds or are they fruit? Pomegranates line my entire windowsill. I'm trying to eat them all. I've got a whole stomach to fill. You told me they were sweet, and I believed what I heard. So I swallowed them whole. cold, just like I swallowed your every word. My mother always told me, don't eat the seeds, but I was hoping something would grow inside of me. My mother always told me the seeds will take root, but our pomegranate seeds are they fruit. I keep swallowing the seeds, devouring them, swallowing these seeds that I want so badly to grow, devouring these seeds. I thought would take root, but none of them ever sprung, and I didn't even taste the fruit. My mother always told me, don't eat the seeds, but I was hoping something would grow inside of me. My mother always told me the seeds would take root, but our pomegranate seeds are they fruit.
Our artificial light has drowned out the moonshine, and we drowsily flick our lampposts on, stretching the day until it snaps into pieces of plastic, and the moon turns her porcelain face away from the glare, her waxen body dipping in and out of the cumulonimbus, the wish-you-were-here stratosphere, for we find curiosity in her dark side. While steel mill chimneys blow smoke rings around her torso, she knows better. She knows that Saturn shtick and those rings could never woo her. Remember the days when we would get drunk on moonshine, not from a jug but from the brine, the mesmerizing gleam, the lunar water floating on a lucid Monongahela dream, the shine which synced the blood of mothers, the desert wolves howling for their brothers, in ages past when we lit the inside walls of coves to reveal cave drawings of mystic beasts, sheltering generations of Homo sapiens into a familial embrace. The light to illumine a lost lover's face, the spark which God fired so that she might personify intergalactic grace, the glow that led an entire race to take a sip from the drinking gourd, the light which was battered and torn but graciously poured on generations of stargazing folk. But now, we let our faces glow from screens, our eyes roll back in our head to create an artificial LED dream. Rolling and scrolling for the light, our bloodshot eyes greet the night with a half-dazed hello. When the whites of her eyes could have matched the outer layer of her skin, our pupils become craters, sinking inside themselves from all the exposure to the truths we've created for ourselves. We tattoo our bodies with her cycle, convincing ourselves that we were also born to wax and wane instead of cut and stain. We could just as easily superimpose small icons from our phones into the skyline, because that way we could put a face to the wonderment, but instead we use her name in vain, ridicule and slain. Damn it, moon, moon, damn it, we say, and he has just another way of seeping the unnatural light into our pores, eclipsing our own skin. We become our own shadow, but should we nosedive into her shores, we'd vibrate on her waves that rage and tear with premenstrual tsunami syndromes of centuries of human piss. All she wanted was bliss, to be full and new at the same time, to reflect nostalgic ages past and radiate the light of futures to come, to salute each daylight, to do justice to the sun.